Welcome back to part 2 of Corvids of the Crown. We'll begin where we left off with the earliest legend of the ravens in the tower, that of Bran the Blessed. This is the Irish tale of the war against the Irish leader Matholwch, who had mistreated the Princess Branwen. Branwen's brother, Bran the Blessed, king of the Britons, ordered his followers to cut off his head and bury it beneath the White Hill, upon which the tower now stands, facing out towards France as a talisman to protect Britain from foreign invasion. Bendigeidfran, or Bran the Blessed, is god of the ravens and prophecy in Celtic mythology. Bran ap Llŷr was the legendary Welsh giant and king of Britain. He was a popular god and well-known figure in the mythology of Wales. Legends describe him as a giant of semi-divine heritage, as his father was Llŷr, the god of the sea. He was known as Bendigeidfran in the ancient texts of the Mabinogion of Welsh mythology. There are two important families in the Welsh mythology, the children of Llŷr and the children of Don. The house of Llŷr were represented by the twins Bran and Manawydan, and their fair sister Branwen, ancestors of the Britons, and the lords of Dyfed, a kingdom in southern Wales. Bran was king of the whole of Britain. The house of Don have a kingdom in northern Wales called Gwynedd. Don was the ancestor of the Gaels. Here's Dyfed and Gwynedd in northern Wales. The tale about these families are told in the first 4 stories of the Mabinogion, which are often called the 4 branches of the Mabinogi. Bran and Bendigeidfran mean raven, holy raven, or blessed crow. Black ravens came to symbolize the presence of Bran and were sacred to him. Ravens were revered in the Celtic world as they were thought to be messengers between the mortal world and the world of the spirits or other world, known in Welsh as Annwn or Annabyn. It was essentially a world of delights and eternal youth, where disease was absent and food was ever abundant. Annwn was ruled by Arawn, or, in Arthurian literature, by Gwyn ap Nudd, son of the White. He is the horned god, the lord of the wild hunt. The tale of Bran the Blessed is told in the second branch of the Mabinogi, called Branwen fer Llŷr, or daughter of Llŷr. Bran the Blessed, or Bendigeidfran, I will use these names interchangeably, is a son of Llŷr and the brother of Branwen and Manawydan. Their mother was a mortal woman, Penardum. Nisian and Evnisian were their half-brothers. The name Branwen means the white blessed raven. The children of Llŷr represented the powers of darkness in Welsh mythology. They were constantly at war with the children of the mother goddess Dawn, who represented the power of light. Bran was a giant, a hero, and the king of all Britain. He was the most mighty chieftain of the Island of the Mighty, or Prydain, which is Welsh for Britain. I'm going to attempt to give a summary of the second book of the Mabinogion. One day Bran and his brothers, Manawydan, saw a fleet of 13 ships sailing swiftly across the sea towards Wales. He recognized Matholwch, the High King of Ireland, who held his shield upside down as a sign of peace as his ships entered the harbor. Matholwch sailed to Wales to ask for Branwen's hand in marriage. The Irish king hoped the marriage would lead to a political alliance between Britain and Ireland. A son born to Branwen would be the future ruler of both islands. Bendigeidfran agreed to Matholwch's request, but the celebrations are cut short when Evnisian, the evil half-brother to the children of Llŷr, brutally mutilates Mathaluk's horses, angry that his permission was not sought in regards to the marriage. Mathaluk is deeply offended until Bran offers him compensation in the form of more horses and a magic cauldron of rebirth, which could bring the dead warriors back to life. It's called the Renaissance Cauldron, or the Cauldron of Rebirth. Pleased with the gift, Mathaluk and Branwen sail back to Ireland to reign. Once in Mathaluk's kingdom, Branwen gives birth to a son, Gwern. Gwern's birth was a symbol that the people of Britain and Ireland would one day be reunited. But Evnisian's insult continues to rankle among the Irish, and eventually Branwen is mistreated, banished to the kitchens below the palace and beaten every day. She eventually tames a starling and sends it across the Irish Sea with a message to her brother Bendigeidfran, who sails from Wales to Ireland to rescue her with his brother Manawyddan, and a huge host of warriors mustered from the 154 cantrefs of Britain. Bran and his army march through Ireland towards King Mathaluk. They find crossing the river Liffey very difficult. Bran lay across the river so his men are able to travel over his back to the other side. The place where this mythical events took place is known today as Hurdle Ford and part of the city of Dublin. News soon reaches Mathaluk of the arrival of Bran and his army on the coast of Ireland. The frightened Irish king attempts to quickly make peace with Bran. Mathaluk offers to stand aside and proposes that his young son, Gwern, be made the new king of Ireland as part of the peace negotiations. He also arranges for a great feasting hall to be built, which is large enough for the giant Bran to finally live in. But the Irish hang 100 bags inside the new house, supposedly containing flour, but actually containing armed warriors. Evnisian, the wicked half-brother, suspecting a trick, reconnoiters the hall and kills the warriors by crushing the heads inside the bags. Later, at the feast, Evnisian, again feeling insulted, throws Gwern on the fire, burning the child to death, and a savage battle breaks out. Seeing that the Irish are using the cauldron to revive their dead, Evnisian hides among the corpses and destroys the cauldron, sacrificing himself in the process. The battle continues on fairer terms until King Mathaluk and all of his warriors die. Only 5 pregnant women survive to repopulate Ireland. Bran, Branwen, and 7 of his warriors are the only survivors from Britain. Branwen eventually dies of a broken heart. Sadly, Bran, the Holy Raven, is mortally wounded by a poisoned spear to the foot. He orders his remaining men to cut off his head, and tells them to bear it even unto the White Hill in London, to bury it there with the face towards France. The White Hill is the place where the Tower of London now stands. For 7 years, the 7 survivors stay in Harlech, where they are entertained by Bendigeidfran's head, which continues to speak. They later move on to Gwales, or Grasholm Island off Dyfed, where they live for 80 years in bliss without perceiving the passage of time. This is the other world. I'm going to read a quote from the translation of the Mabinogion by Lady Charlotte Guest. At the close of the 7th year they went forth to Gwales in Penvro, and there they found a fair and regal spot overlooking the ocean, and a spacious hall was therein, and that night they regaled themselves and were joyful, and there they remained 80 years, unconscious of having ever spent a time more joyous and mirthful. And they were not more weary than when they first came, neither did they, any of them, know the time they had been there. And it was not more irksome to them having the head with them than if Bendigeidfran had been with them himself. and because of these 80 years, it was called the entertaining of the noble head. Eventually, Hylan Fab Gwyn opens the door to the hall facing Cornwall, breaking the spell of the otherworld, and the sorrow of what had befallen them returns. This is the coat of arms of Cornwall, featuring the crow and the crown. As instructed, they take the now silent head to Gwynfryn, the White Hill, where they bury it facing France. In this imagery of the head of Bandigeidfran, we see the decapitation of the crow from alchemy. The caput corvi is the symbol of the nigredo. In alchemy, nigredo or blackness means putrefaction or decomposition. Many alchemists believe that this is the first step in the pathway to the philosopher's stone. All alchemical ingredients had to be cleansed and cooked extensively to a uniform black matter. The black sun represents the nigredo stage in the alchemical burning stage of the calcination or blackening of the first matter. By burning, the color black has been associated with Saturn since ancient times, and bran is associated with Saturn. It's another alchemical tale. The Celtic Britons, Welsh, Cornish, and Bretons, are Brythonic cousins. This family includes Brittany and Wales, as well as Ireland and parts of England such as neighboring Devon and Cornwall. Here's Brittany in northwest France. This is the flag of Brittany, with 9 bars and 11 ermine spots for your 9/11 calling card. It's the Breton national flag, called the Gwenhadou, the black and white. Excuse me. It was designed in 1923 by Morvan Michal, a militant Breton nationalist, who looks very much like a tea drinker to me. This is the ermine, or the Armenian rat. The linings of medieval coronation cloaks were made by sewing many ermine furs together to produce a luxurious white fur with patterns of hanging black tip tails. This is a painting called The Lady with an Ermine by Leonardo da Vinci. He is quoted as saying, "The ermine out of moderation never eats but once a day, and it would rather let itself be captured by hunters than take refuge in a dirty lair in order not to stain its purity." The ermine is a symbol of purity. Thus the ermine became associated with the phrases such as death before defilement, death rather than dishonor. This is John V, Duke of Brittany, in an ermine tent. There is another layer to the symbolism. Because the ermine's coat turns brown in the summer, the ermine seems to die and then be reborn in the winter, signifying resurrection. This is Queen Elizabeth I with her ermine, Queen Elizabeth II in her ermine. The name of the coronation robe maker is Ede and Ravenscroft. In 1969, Ede and Ravenscroft made the robe for the investiture of Prince Charles. They are the oldest tailors in London. Their address is 93 Chancery Lane in Savile Row. They make legal gowns and wigs and other ceremonial and formal dress. They also serve as tailor to the infamous Bullingdon Club at the University of Oxford. Here is Boris Johnson and David Cameron. Here are some of their legal wigs that they hand make from horse's hair. It's seems to be at the heart of the ceremonial garb lies the raven and Saturn worship. Of course, Prince Charles tests positive for the coronavirus. Or is it the crow virus? Or the T virus? Here is Prince Charles, the Tuatha Cymru, the Prince of Wales. Why is he Prince of Wales? Since the 14th century, apparently, the title has been a dynastic title granted to the king or queen, to the heir, granted by the king or queen to the heir apparent to the English or British monarch. Here's a little clip from Charles's address at Carnarvon during his investiture in 1969. Let's see if I have the...
Rydw I wedi synnu nad yn holl gystadlaethau yn y sefydliad rhagorol yma, ac rydw I wedi cael blas arbennig ar y canu brwd a phersain. Canu mor frwd, fel y byddai'n dda eich cael chi gyd yng Nghaernarfon. Yn lle cwr dywysedig. Ond gweithio'r modd, rydw i'n deall na fydd neb ohono yn y fan hwnnw.
He really had him in his pocket. Here is many Welsh nationalists were opposed to the investiture of Prince Charles at Carnarvon. They were protesting the celebration of the usurpation of the Prince of Wales title from the native Welsh princes by King Edward I in the 13th century. Looks like controlled opposition, of course. Here is the Welsh flag with the red dragon, Ithre Goch. The Prince of Wales was a title held by native Welsh princes before the 12th century. The term replaced the use of the word king. The last Welsh prince, Llywelyn ap Gruffydd, was killed in battle by Edward I, King of England, who invested his son Edward of Carnarvon as the first English Prince of Wales in 1301. So the story goes. Edward I, also known as Edward Longshanks, was the fifth king of the House of Plantagenet. According to legend, the king had promised the Welsh that he would name a prince born in Wales who did not speak a word of English, and then produced his infant son, who had been born at Carnarvon, to their surprise. Llywelyn ap Gruffydd died in battle with the English. His head was chopped off and subsequently displayed on a spike at the Tower of London. So here we have another legend of a Welsh head at the Tower. Llywelyn ap Gruffydd's death in 1282 supposedly marked the completion of Edward I's conquest of Wales. This is Carnarvon Castle. Another Disney prop and another World Heritage Site. The castle was neglected until the 19th century, when the state funded repairs. The castle was used for the investiture of the Prince of Wales in 1911, for your 9/11 again. It was used again for Prince Charles's investiture in 1969. At this event, Queen Elizabeth II said to Charles, as she placed the crown on his head, "This dragon gives you your power, your throne, and your authority." To which Charles responded with, I am now your liege man, and worthy of your earthly worship. Liege man meaning lord or master. She was quoting Revelation 13:2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. Many believe that Prince Charles is the anti-Messiah, or the Antichrist. And the Welsh dragon gave him his power. So the myth goes. Carnarvon Castle was part of the Iron Ring of castles, which was a chain of fortifications and castles built in North Wales at Edward I's command. The purpose of building the Iron Ring was to control the native population of North Wales, particularly Gwynedd, which had been the main locus of resistance to the English crown for centuries. The jewel in the crown of the Iron Ring was Carnarvon Castle. Many of the castles were the work of master architect James of St. George. Each castle was built with an integrated fortified town. And this is their Freemasonic architect that they put forth, James of St. George. The Iron Ring. In July 2017, plans for an iron sculpture of a giant ring were announced as part of the restoration project of Flint Castle, the first castle built in Wales by Edward I. The plan was met with criticism, and accusations were made that it was commemorating the conquering and subjugation of Wales by England. Plans for the sculpture were ultimately cancelled. This is the Iron Ring. Looks a lot like Saturn's ring. The investitures for peers and princes ceased in 1621, at a time when peerages were being created so frequently that the investiture ceremonies became cumbersome. Most investitures for princes of Wales were held in Parliament. In 1911, the Welsh Prime Minister, David Lloyd George, revived the investiture ceremony at Carnarvon Castle. Here's the young Prince Edward, Duke of Windsor, later King Edward VIII. Looks like a young girl. This is the same king who abdicated so he could marry the tranny Wallis Simpson. The perfect reverso couple. Here's a postcard commemorating the event. So how come Prince William isn't Prince of Wales? It's like Prince Charles is looking very matronly here. One of William's titles was previously Prince William of Wales, until he was given the title the Duke of Cambridge upon marrying Kate Middleton. When Charles becomes king, he will again become Prince of Wales. On the summer solstice of this year, June 21st, there will be a total solar eclipse. This day happens to be Prince William's birthday. The total solar eclipse is a form of sacred marriage of the sun and moon, the corona of the androgyne. Will William be king at this time? I suspect this event has been in the planning for a very long time. The Prince of Wales has a badge of 3 ostrich feathers emerging from a gold coronet. It dates back to Edward the Black Prince, eldest son and heir apparent of Edward III of England, from the House of Plantagenet. The badge itself is sometimes used to symbolize Wales. The Black Prince was created Prince of Wales in 1343. He was renowned as a valiant knight, fighting for his father Edward III in the 100 Years' War. This is his shield used for jousting. Ich dien means I serve in German. You can see this badge several times, alternating with his royal arms, on his chest tomb in Canterbury Cathedral. Here's the Black Prince with a single ostrich feather. So where did the ostrich plumes of Wales originate? One origin story of the badge is as follows. At the Battle of Crecy in 1346, when he was only 16, he fought very gallantly alongside his father. He slew John I of Bohemia, famous for being both blind and brave. As the battle turned against France and her allies, John had demanded to be led into the battle by his guiding knights. He was, of course, cut down and slain, and the Black Prince plucked the ostrich feathers from the dead king's helmet and adopted his motto of Ich dien, to emphasize his heroic victory. The problem is John of Bohemia carried no such feathers, and that was not his motto. The feathers were said to have first appeared at the marriage of his father, King Edward III, to Philippa of Hainaut, and it is therefore likely that the Black Prince inherited the badge from his mother. Philippa was descended from the Counts of Hainaut. The Baldwins. The Baldwins of Hainaut. Hainaut is a province in Wallonia in Belgium, northern France. In Belgium and northern France. Here are their coat of arms. Queen Philippa is famous for her compassion. Here she is interceding for the burghers of Calais, begging for mercy from her husband. The Burghers of Calais is a sculpture by Auguste Rodin. It commemorates an event during the 100 Years' War when Calais, a French port on the English Channel, was under siege by the English for about 11 months. The Black Prince was Philippa's eldest son of 13, and he bore the title Count of Ostravent, the ostrich feathers being perhaps a heraldic pun on the name. Ostravent is a traditional country in the north of France between French Flanders and French Hainaut. The Black Prince was a Walloon. This is the flag of Wallonia, a French-speaking region of Belgium. Flanders is their Dutch-speaking counterpart in roughly northern Belgium. And we must remember that all of Europe today is currently ruled from Brussels. The root of the word Wallonia is related to the words Wales, Cornwall, and Wallachia. These names come from the root word Walha, a Proto-Germanic term used to refer to Gallo-Romance speakers. These are Walloons, and they are a distinct ethnic community within Belgium. Walloons are described as being descendants of the Gallo-Romans with Germanic-Frankish admixture. The tea-drinking Leon de Grelle is the most famous Walloon I know of. These clown-like characters are called Gilles, and they march in the Carnaval de Banche, dating back to the 14th century. The entire economy of the town revolves around these celebrations. Appearing on Shrove Tuesday, they number about 1,000, aged 3 to 60, all male. It's a privilege to join the Gilles. Later during the day, they don large hats adorned with ostrich plumes, which can cost more than $300 to rent. They march through the town with baskets of oranges which they throw at spectators and property quite vigorously. They are blood oranges with purple-red pulp, so it's a very macabre scene, apparently. Here they are in their wooden clogs, dancing the pas de chat, or cat step, to keep warm. Some men, called mamselles, dress up as women. It's described as a prideful display of original costly costumes, only worn once, concocted over the past 11 months. The ostrich feather hats are almost 4 feet high and weigh about 6.5 pounds. Here's young Prince Edward with his ostrich feather hat. The ostrich plume is also the feather of Maat, Maat's feather of truth. This feather encodes the number 42 because the ostrich egg takes 42 days to hatch. The assessors of Maat were 42 minor ancient Egyptian deities of Maat, charged with judging the souls of the dead in the afterlife by joining the judgment of Osiris in the weighing of the heart. Incidentally, King Edward was 42 years of age when he abdicated the throne for his tranny wife. They were also the 42 negative confessions of the deceased recited on the Day of Judgment. 42 is, of course, the answer to everything. The feather of Maat was adopted as a personal emblem of rock musician Robert Plant for use on the Led Zeppelin album 4. King Edward I, who invested his son, the Black Prince, as the first English Prince of Wales, was from the House of Plantagenet. Is Robert Plant a Plantagenet? Here's the young Prince Robert. So where did the motto Ich dien really come from, if not from blind John I of Bohemia? The Black Prince's victory at the Battle of Crecy was said to be attributed to his army of 500 Welsh bowmen called the Black Army of Llantrisant. In 1346, the Lord of Glamorgan formed a legion of Welsh warriors to assist Edward III in the French war. It was in Llantrisant that an army of archers was raised from among the local inhabitants. Since a key factor in the English army's victory at Crecy was the use of these Welsh archers, perhaps it was Edward's pride in the men of Wales which led him to adopt the motto Ich dien. The motto Ich dien is really supposed to mean Ich din, your man. According to a Welsh tradition, the English Edward I, after his victory over the Welsh, promised to provide Wales with a prince who could speak no word of English. When his son, the Black Prince, was born, he presented him to the assembly, saying in Welsh, Ich din, behold your man. Essentially saying, behold your first English Prince of Wales. Remember, the name Charles means man. Ich din, behold your man, quote unquote. Here's the location of Llantrisant in southern Wales. The ancient tradition of the beating of the bounds originated here. Local children are bounced by elders onto the boundary stones of the old borough. It occurs every 7 years and has its roots in the granting of the royal charter to Llantrisant, just months before the Black Army of local archers helped Prince Edward to victory. It is a city of 11 million. Interestingly, the Royal Mint, which produces all British coins, moved from London to Llantrisant in 1968 in order to meet demand when the UK converted to decimal currency, just 1 year before Prince Charles's investiture as Prince of Wales. The Royal Mint has been in existence for around 1100 years, first in the Tower of London, then Tower Hill, and now in Llantrisant, Glamorgan, Wales. In 1279, control of the mint system was centralized to the mint within the Tower of London. Today it's located at this 38-acre plant in Wales. The Black Army is responsible for the origin of the V sign or bullock sign. This gesture comes to us from the Anglo-Welsh archers of Crecy. What the French did, if they ever captured the archers, was to cut off these 2 fingers so they would never shoot an arrow again. So when enemy armies faced up, the archer had a habit of showing the French that they had their 2 fingers, that they were ready to shoot arrows, ready to wage war. Today the Black Army lives on as a rugby team. On August 6, 1946, Princess Elizabeth, later Queen Elizabeth II, wears a robe of green and is initiated into the mystic circle of bards. Here she is being led by a druidic high priestess. The high priestess is a man, of course. There are many similarities between the Hebrew and the Welsh bards, and this appears to be somewhat of a shofar. So what's going on with this druidry? And why would the future head of the Church of England, a Christian denomination, initiate as part of another religion? Princess Elizabeth, the initiate, wearing robes and a hood during the annual Eisteddfod at Mountain Ash, Glamorgan, Wales. Eisteddfod is a festival of Welsh literature, music, and performance. It's the most visible activity of the Gorsedd Cymru, meaning the Throne of Wales, founded in 1792 by Edward Williams, commonly known as Iolo Morganwg, who also invented much of its ritual, supposedly based on the activities of the ancient Celtic druidry. Iolo Morganwg, 1747 to 1826, was an influential Welsh antiquarian, poet, collector, and literary forger, the leading collector of medieval Welsh literature. He had a lasting impact on Welsh culture, notably in founding the Gorsedd. He was responsible for the early neo-Druid movements. Here's the symbol of the Gorsedd, called the awen. It reminds me of the symbol of the ermine spots. The 3 lines are the rays emanating from the 3 points of light, with those points representing the triple aspect of deity, and also the points at which the sun rises on the equinoxes and solstices, known as the triad of the sunrises, surrounded by 3 circles representing the 3 circles of creation. The British Druid order attributes the symbol to Iolo Morganwg. This is the Gorsedd of Brittany, called the Gorsedd in 1906. Emma Restall Orr, founder and former head of the Druid Network, seems to be the it seems that the Druid high priestess is still a man. Here's the Druid Network symbol, which is an oak tree. Here's the coven of Druids at the very fake Stonehenge. It turns out Elizabeth's parents were Druids as well. Royal bards Albert Eforg and Betsy of Eforg, which means York, initiated members of Gorsedd at Welsh National Eisteddfod. The Duke and Duchess of York, who later became King George VI and Queen Mother Elizabeth. Apparently the Queen was excommunicated from the Druidic order because she speaks no Welsh. I doubt it. Rowan Williams, Archbishop of Canterbury in 2002, leader of the Church of England, being inducted into the Gorsedd of Bards just before becoming Archbishop. Edward the Black Prince was made the first Duke of Cornwall in 1337, the first English dukedom. Here's Prince Charles of Wales, who many believe to be the very head of Freemasonry. Here he is in his Order of the Garter regalia. This is mainly supported by the fact that the Prince of Wales is the head of the Order of the Garter, which seats 24 knights, of whom make up the top Masons in the world. Many people believe the Prince of Wales is the Antichrist. But to me, it's feeling all very contrived and all too conspicuous. This is an interesting book. The Antichrist in a Cup of Tea. The book's description says, "The Antichrist in a Cup of Tea presents the fascinating saga of the British monarchy's centuries-long endeavor to establish a new world order, and for the first time gives hard evidence to suggest the identity of the Antichrist." We're certainly seeing a new world order emerge today, and I don't know, maybe all of this regalia has something to do with it. It clearly is going to take some more research, but I don't know if I want to keep pursuing it because it feels like a trap. There are 3 champions known as Raven Kings. Here is Odin, the Norse god, with his 2 raven prophet messengers, winged black Mercuries, Hugin and Munin. Odin is referred to as the raven god due to his association with these ravens. The Hanged Man in the tarot is actually a depiction of Odin, who suspended himself from a tree in order to gain knowledge of the runes, symbolizing sacrifice and prophecy. The second raven was King Arthur, who in Wales and Cornwall was believed to inhabit the raven's body after death. Ithred Goch, meaning the red dragon, a heraldic symbol that appears on the national flag of Wales, is popularly supposed to have been the battle standard of King Arthur, also known as the Red Dragon of Cadwaladr, Welsh ancestor to Henry VII. In the Mabinogion, the story of Llyd and Lleflys, the red dragon fights with an invading white dragon. It tells of the Welsh hero Llyd and his brother Lleflys in Geoffrey of Monmouth's Historia Regum Britannia. More alchemical symbology. The third king particularly connected with the raven was Bran the Blessed, the Irish cult hero whose very name Bran means raven. Bran was also connected with Saturn, the black planet, which symbolized alchemical lead. Mythologically, Bran and Saturn were both eaters of flesh, the corrosion of substance. In Vedic texts, Saturn is described as riding a crow and carrying a skull. Shawnee refers to the planet Saturn, and is one of the 9 heavenly objects known as Navagraha in Hindu astrology. Shani's iconography consists of a handsome figure carrying a sword or danda and sitting on a crow. He is the god of justice in Hindu religion and delivers results to all depending on their karma. He also signifies spiritual asceticism, penance, discipline, and hard work. Shani. The Sonnenrad is German for sunwheel and is often equated to Saturn, the black hole sun, the symbol of the black sun or sunwheel. It is a depiction of Saturn at the center of the zodiac wheel, because Saturn is the ruler of the zodiac along with the sun. In the age-old struggle between the black sun, Saturn, lord of the underworld or winter, and the orange sun, the savior, the light of the world in the summer, over control of the zodiac year, the struggle of duality, summer versus winter, day versus night. This is why orange is the new black. And I have to thank James True, whoever or whatever he is, for bringing this association to my attention. In Rome, only the representative of Jupiter can sacrifice a human inside the city walls. This is why Trump's face is always painted orange. He is the representative of Jupiter, the triumphator. In Rome, in the Roman triumph, the general was dressed in an elaborate red or purple toga, and his face was painted red to imitate the red-painted face of the statue of Jupiter, the king of the gods. The red paint was made with vermilion, an opaque orange-red pigment derived from the powdered mineral cinnabar. This is a painting of the Triumph of Caesar by Andrea Mantegna. The triumph was a ceremonial procession granted to victorious generals, who drove in a chariot drawn by 4 horses. They would ride through the streets to the temple of Jupiter on the Capitoline Hill to offer sacrifice in the temple. The name Trump actually comes from triumph. It also means to surpass or beat, as well as to deceive or cheat. It's a loaded name. Here's Trump the Triumphator in his Corona Triumphalis. The Triumphator, a man of triumph, embodies or impersonates Jupiter in the triumphal procession. Here is the Corona Triumphalis, otherwise known as the laurel wreath. This is NASA's depiction of the orange planet with the corona, a plasma corona, miraculously taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. Here's a picture from HBO's Rome. Corona also means wreath. The Corona Triumphalis was tied from fresh laurel branches. During the procession, a state-owned slave simultaneously held the Corona Etrusca over his head, because no one was allowed to wear it directly on the head. This crown was made from gold oak leaves. It was the sole privilege of the triumphator in his role as the earthly incarnation of Jupiter to have the Corona Etrusca in his triumphal chariot. The slave also continually whispered into the triumphator's ear, "Memento mori, remember you are mortal," to keep him humble amidst all the adulation. You could also call the laurel wreath the Larry crown. Larry is derived from Lawrence, derived from the Latin for Laurentius, which derives from laurel. This movie was released July 1st, 2011. I highly recommend checking out this video by 88 Finis Temporis. He does a great breakdown of the movie. they have been prepping Tom Hanks for his role as Queen of the Corvids for a very long time. So are we seeing the struggle of Saturn and Jupiter playing out before our very eyes on the earthly plane? Well, on December 21st, 2020, with winter solstice of this year, we'll witness the historic conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, the great chronocrators or time lords. It is called the Great Mutation Cycle. Saturn takes 30 years to progress through the ecliptic, while Jupiter takes 12. There you have your 42 again. Their conjunctions occur on an average every 19.853 years, for your 19 again. But practically in astrology we use 20 years. A few successive conjunctions take place in zodiacal signs of the same element, either fire, earth, air, or water. As the element changes, a great mutation is said to occur. We'll be leaving the earth element of Capricorn, in which the last 3 great conjunctions have occurred over the last 180 years, and entering the air sign of Aquarius. Some believe this is the true dawning of the age of Aquarius. Perhaps this archetypal struggle between Jupiter and Saturn will be played out as below, by Trump the Triumphator as Jupiter and King Charles the Crow as Saturn. Well, I could go on, but I want to put this to rest for a while, so I will say goodbye here. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.